Hello, everyone. This is Nora Armani, and we are on our third, I think, I lose count now. Yes, I think we are on our third Meet the Filmmakers panel today. And we are hosting a number of filmmakers who seem to be having a trouble joining in. So we have one filmmaker. We will start with the one filmmaker and hope that the others will join us. If they don't, this is going to be a very short Meet the Filmmaker session, which happens sometimes. Well, the Socially Relevant Film Festival, let me tell you a couple of things about it, has been around for 11 years now. We are on the verge of actually, we have been preparing our 11th edition, which will open March 13 and run until March 18 as an in-person section. And on March 19, most of the films, with the exception of 2 or 3, will be available online on our online platform. In order for you to be able to access all this information, I will drive you to our website right now while we wait for others to join us. ratedsrfilms.org, and there you will see the entire selection of the festival, what is available on this particular official selection for 2024, all the narrative features, documentary features that are running in competition. If there are some films that are being screened out of competition, it does say so next to them. The reason for that could be, or is most probably, the fact that it is not a New York premiere. Our rules and regulations stipulate that in order for a film to run in the competition, it needs to be at least a New York premiere. So that said, we have a whole bunch of shorts as well. Again, sometimes we do screen films that have screened in other festivals because we find them very interesting, or we find that the themes they are dealing with are very interesting and we want to talk about those. So we don't mind that they are not New York premieres. Unfortunately, that disqualifies them from the competition section. So we have a huge selection of films. Many of them deal with different topics. We group the shorts into different topics. Like, for example, this year we have aging and disability. We have BIPOC films. We have LGBTQI plus films. We have women of women interest or women directed films. And we have climate films, which we have termed under the heading Our Planet. So today we have the filmmaker who has joined us from the UK. And without further ado, let me get myself out of this solo layout and bring on Levi Quartley, who is joining in from the UK. And he is the director of a short film called It's Not That Simple. So you can tell us a little bit about what your film is about, and then I will ask you another question.
Yeah, okay. So hi, everyone. I'm Levi. As Nora kindly said, I am the producer and director of the documentary It's Not That Simple. It's Not That Simple explores the unspoken dating struggles of the trans community through the minds of transgender young adults. And it's actually a really personal project to me because it was my final year university project. But what inspired it was how I find love very hard as a trans person. So I'm featured in it. I present it as well as direct and produce it. And it's very close to my heart.
Yeah. We have 4 films that come into the LGBTQI category. Interestingly enough, in the past, when we used to have the LGBTQI category, we did not have that many trans films. We had a lot of gay and lesbian films, coming out films, that kind of thing. A couple of years ago, we had a very interesting film. It was a feature documentary, and it was all about trans people. And it was very, very powerful, very strong film. And this year, out of the 4, we have 2 trans stories. One is yours, and the other is a New York trans story. And then we have 2 others. One is gay and one is lesbian. So we've kind of pretty much not everything, all the letters. We haven't covered all the letters, but also we go with the films that are presented to us. And that's another characteristic of the festival. A lot of people ask us, what's the topic this year? And I go, I don't know what the topic is going to be, because we don't decide beforehand what the topic is going to be, but we go by what the filmmakers submit to us. And then we look at the submissions. We eliminate the films that are trying to say something, but they're not quite succeeding at it, or maybe the production values are not quite there. And we eliminate those, and then we focus on the ones that already have a strong message, or a strong, I shouldn't say message because it's not about preaching anybody, but it's more about the topic, the subject that they are dealing with, and also the way they have dealt with it. And the production values have to be excellent. So my next question to you is, how did this idea come about? I know you said that you're also the subject, so it's
Yeah.
very personal, but somebody might have a personal story, but may not necessarily resort to telling it on film.
Yeah, so I've always I'm quite open about my gender transition. I call myself a transgender activist. I post a lot on social media. So I've always been someone that speaks so openly about trans issues and things like that. And when I started university, so I did a television degree at Falmouth University, I knew that I wanted to make a project about being transgender, just because there isn't enough conversations still about it. And then one of my lecturers actually inspired me. I was speaking about it in second year, and I was like, but everyone's heard about like the whole gender transition narrative, like this, like that's been overdone, and it doesn't really seem to kind of add anything more to the conversation. So then I thought, so like she was like, well, quite a lot of the documentaries that are successful are where you're kind of put in a position where you're uncomfortable yourself. So like things like Louis Theroux, he often puts himself in really uncomfortable situations to kind of get the best content. And love and talking about relationships, and how as an almost 22-year-old I've never had a relationship or anything like that, is always quite a daunting one for me to speak about. So I knew that it would be something new and fresh and a different perspective. So that's kind of where the idea came about. And then every time someone would ask me if like I had a girlfriend, or if I speak to anyone, I'd just be like, oh well, it's not that simple. So that's where the name came from as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very true. And also it's by educating people and,
Yeah.
making them learn more about what the story is all about. And that's what we pride ourselves with. And I always say, I have a hidden agenda. I mean, when I started this festival, I come from a sociology background, besides being an actor myself and doing a lot of theater and film. And for me, the themes and the topics that we deal with in the Socially Relevant Film Festival have been an incredibly educational learning experience for me. I have learned so much about people, about subjects, about problems, about issues that sometimes I had no idea about myself. It's not like, oh my God, I know everything and now I want to teach what I know to other people. I myself have been learning, and the entire team of the festival, we are so grateful that filmmakers like yourself are bringing us these films, because then we learn so much. And by learning, that's the first step towards breaking stereotypes and prejudice and prejudgment, and towards people, towards situations. And we learn also that we have a lot more in common than we have differences. And transgender is quite an interesting topic because you're completely changing identity. But this is your sexual identity, your gender identity that you're changing. But a lot of people go through identity changes in many other ways as well. And although it might not be as drastic as physical as biological,
Yeah.
it's still a change. So tell us a little bit about your process personally, since we have a little bit more time. We'll
Process in terms of
transition and all that.
transition. Oh, okay. No, I talk about it all the time. So I think I always kind of knew who I was from like a young age, but um, transgender, like the term was never spoken about. So I was always a tomboy. And then I remember when I was about 13, 14, I kind of somehow, ironically, so I ended up realizing what being trans was by just watching YouTube videos and just suddenly stumbling across a transgender person's account. And like I eventually learned about what being transgender was in year 10, which I'm trying to think of the ages now. 15, 14, 14, um and that was kind of like I felt like everyone in the room, like when it was being mentioned, was sort of looking at me. But I always strongly believed that if I'd known from a younger age that like I could have started my transition a bit earlier, not necessarily kind of medically, but I'm like a huge advocate for kind of having that access to younger people. I know it's very controversial,
Yeah.
and there's different sides, like I can understand where people are coming from and things like that, but I finally came out as transgender when I was 15. I'm now almost 22. I'm almost 3.5 years on testosterone, and as of yesterday, 6 weeks post-op from top surgery. So a big eventful thing happened at the start of the year. And to be honest, I think now that I've had top surgery, I might even be even more confident with finding love. So
Yes, it's aren't we all looking for love? That's
yeah,
so important. It's such a human need, and every time I talk about this, when we talk about human rights, like we
yeah,
talk about food, we talk about shelter, we talk about a lot of different things when you look at the human rights booklet, but nobody talks about the right to be loved and
yeah,
find love. That is such an important human rights element.
yeah,
And if you're going to find love by transitioning into another gender, because that's how you feel, then there is always every legitimacy to it. It's just a matter of education. It's just a matter of knowing about it and being honest with yourself. Also, like every revolutionary stage, this type of story was never talked about before
yeah,
because it was kind of a taboo. And when it's a taboo, it goes through a revolutionary stage. And then people who are not quite sure, they might do it for fashion reasons.
yeah,
And that's where the controversy is
yeah,
coming, because they teach it in schools and then they go, oh, but my kid now it's having identity issues and so on and so forth. But in certain cases, the feeling, the power, it's so powerful, it's so overwhelming that deep
yeah.
inside you that this
And
is what you need to do.
that's kind of why I chose to kind of talk about the theme of love as well, because yeah, as you said, like it's universal, and the kind of agenda behind my documentary, like I always make, every time I make a film, I always want like a sort of underlying hidden deep message, and this was basically to just show that we're not some form of other, that we have these issues, we have these struggles just like any other people, show that we are human basically, because some people like to depict us and think that we're not human. But again, I feel like it's content that everyone can relate to, but it's just sort of that step further that quite a lot of people probably haven't thought about. Like when I spoke to my family and my friends, they were like, oh, I've never thought of that actually. There, that probably would be really difficult for you. And it's to try and steer away from all the medical stuff and everything like that, and just kind of it's just me speaking sort of to the camera or to my friend. The director of photography, actually, she was amazing. She interviewed me, so that I could be in it, and we've got such a close bond. And I wouldn't have been able to make the film without her there. And I had quite a small crew, and it was vital that I had that small crew. We were all friends, so that I felt safe, and like I got so much out of the experience. Like it's changed me as a person. Like it really did help me. So I'm glad that I kind of did make it.
Yes, and it's such a personal topic, and it's
Mm.
so, deep rooted with prejudices all over the place. So it's very important to treat us correctly. And you made the right choice by having someone you could absolutely trust and also have a small crew. I have a comment. Let me see who it is. Oh, okay. We have someone because we ask
Yeah.
is the level of political attacks against the trans community in the US as pronounced in the UK? This is a question by Michael Claes, who is a board member of the festival and is a member of the festival team. And he's asking you that question. Let me put it on the screen so people can see.
I mean, well, I follow along the US, and at one point it seemed like the US there was a lot more kind of political attacks against the trans community. But being in the UK at the moment, kind of, and it's not even exaggerating. Like every day, I'll wake up to a headline about a trans person, or recently, the sad tragedy of Brianna Jai, and then our prime minister kind of mocking that whilst her mother was in the room. So I feel like it is kind of getting worse in the UK. It's obviously the UK is a lot smaller than America, so I wouldn't be able to fully compare, but it does feel like it's yeah, it's just getting really bad. And that's why that was another reason why I made the film as well, because I was just fed up of being depicted as this person, this kind of I don't know, just other form of other freak or whatever, kind of by the kind of political government, when it's just that's not the case, and you can see that within the film. um so yeah, I don't know if I
Yeah,
answered that right, but
that is such a sad reality today that all the governments that we know of are all veering more towards not lack of prejudice, not acceptance, not
yeah,
inclusion, diversity, but more bigotry, more exclusion, and more, prejudice. And they're promoting this kind of prejudice, be it racial or be it for against disabled people or being against sexual orientation or trans or it's really a sad reality. The whole world is going more towards that horrible position. And
yeah, it definitely feels like well, in the UK, that transgender people are kind of being used, kind of being weaponized for votes, being bounced around a lot in both parties, the political parties' agenda. And it's not very nice.
yeah. Well, my next question would be, how did you come across our festival and what made you think that, well, this is where I would like to submit my film?
So I came across it. I was looking on Film Freeway, and I kind of saw like your whole manifesto of kind of like the reason that you do it, and I knew that like my film's not like it's not amazing. I kind of it kind of, because it was a third year project, there was some issues in the sort of final stages a little bit, but I saw kind of your film, the message about how like it's aimed at literally socially relevant festivals and I like filmmakers, and I was like, well, this fits in perfectly. Like this is literally why I've made this, to kind of use the media of film to promote change. And I'm a strong believer in that. I believe that you can tell people what to think, or you can like show them, or like read anything you want, but until you watch like a film, your perspective doesn't change. Like
Yeah.
until you're kind of like you're watching it. And with film, you kind of, it's almost like you don't realize that your perspective's being changed, and that's what I love about it. in that
Yes, it's
kind of
very true. The
via use.
visual medium, and also at any given moment, we are either in front of a screen, like we are right
Mm.
now, on our phones, or everything is like screen now. And the also attention spans have shortened. So by saying what you have to say in a short period of time, it's even more powerful.
Yeah,
And that's what we like a lot about the short films, because they bring us content that can be said in a short period of time and people can relate to it a lot of times. Now, my last question to you is, what is your next project? What are you working on right now?
so obviously the film could only be short for university. That was kind of like the restrictions. But I'm trying to put together a pitch to kind of use the film as like a teaser for what could come, because I'd love to get a lot more people involved. The kind of the diversity across the kind of I say cast, like the contributors. So we had, so Billy was autistic, but other than that, we were all white, and like I wasn't a fan of that. I didn't want that, but I was in Cornwall, and it's not that racially kind of equal down there. So I'd love to kind of get more intersectionality within kind of the actual documentary, and maybe even try and get some more famous kind of transgender activists on board. So that's kind of like the big goal. I've also recently, talking about all the trans hate, I'd love to do kind of a documentary on kind of like the rise of trans hate, where it's kind of sprung up from, because I stay quite on top of it. It's not the nicest thing to stay on top of, but I've not seen anyone really do something like that. I know there was a kind of a show, a documentary about, so I can't remember her name now. She was a lecturer or something at a university, and there was some controversy around that. But there's not like a whole thing like, where has this come from? Because for me, it genuinely, when I was getting gender therapy after I'd come out, I thought it was quite safe, and now I am quite worried sometimes, going out in the streets. But yeah, that's kind of, I want to still keep making content, really.
Yeah, you should, because I keep saying, if we don't tell these stories, who will?
Yeah.
So, and that's also another mission that the festival takes upon itself, is we shine the spotlight on subjects and topics and films that maybe because of their content might not be considered quote unquote commercial enough, and
Mm.
other people might not want to show it or see it or whatever. So we advocate these films because we think that these are the key to bringing about positive social change. So let me do a little bit of a pitch here to tell people where they can see your film, right? Because I'm sure they are wondering now and they would love to see it. And the LGBTQI Shorts group of films is screening on Sunday, March 17 at midday, 12 p.m. at Cinema Village. It's an in-person screening. And we have $5 early bird
Woo!
tickets. It's, I think you cannot go any cheaper than that. Or you can go any cheaper than that if you purchase the $12 trio. That gives you 3 tickets, which comes to $4 each. So grab a couple of friends, get a $12 trio pass, and come and watch these wonderful pieces that tell the entire story of the LGBTQI community. So there is another comment. Let's see. Oh, Michael, he says, good luck to you in life and in filmmaking. Thank you for sharing your story. That's
Thank
a
you, Michael.
beautiful message. Thank you. So there we go. And this is not going to be, the tickets are not going to remain $5 and $12 trio indefinitely. Soon they're going to go into the full price, which is $12 online and 15 at the door at the cinema. It's still inexpensive compared to a cinema ticket today, nowadays. But make use of this and come and see these films. So I think we will. I'm going to ask you one last question. Do you want to add anything, or have you got, I don't know, a message to someone, or a, I don't know, another
On spot.
thing that I didn't cover that you might want to talk about?
Ooh. God, my mind's gone blank.
Well,
I'm not too sure.
how long did it take you to do this film?
How long did it take? So, sorry, my dog's just got something. So, I started developing the idea in April 2022, and then I wrapped up all of filming, editing, in June 2023. So just over a year. I kind of used the summer from April to September to kind of develop it, and then as it was third year, I could then go ahead and actually kind of do it for real.
Yeah. It's good to know that, because a lot of times when we rush too much, then it's not mature enough. The subject has not developed. And sometimes when you leave it for too long, then it becomes, okay, do I really want to talk about this now? Or I've gone into something else. So in that sense, short films are very good because you don't need huge amounts of money to make
Yeah,
them. You don't need incredible pieces of equipment to do them. So if out there are filmmakers who are wondering, oh, shall I do my short or shall I wait? Don't wait. Just go on. If you have a burning topic inside you that you want to come out and talk about, please do. And send us your film once you're done, because we are the advocate of wanting to show films that may not otherwise get seen. And hopefully, after the festival, everybody will want to see it. So that's what we pride ourselves for. And it's happened before that we've had films that have been selected for distribution. And that's a great opportunity for filmmakers. So, one more time, $5, people. You can't even get a latte with $5 these days. And Trio, even less so. You can maybe get drip coffee for $4, but that's about it. And then you can even have a Trio Elite with $75, which means you can come to the opening, the closing, and 3 films in between. Anyway, when you go to the tickets part, you'll see all the different options. And here is the website where you can find all the information about all the films and trailers, and come and join us on our next Meet the Filmmakers session, which is on Thursday, February 29, and we'll talk with another group of filmmakers. Hopefully it's not going to be a one-off, one person, but I don't know, maybe people had a trouble or have technical issues or whatever. Sometimes it happens. But anyway, it was wonderful talking to you. And
yeah.
thank you again for bringing us this very, very personal film. And we wish you all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.